Today's episode of the BS Podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network is brought to you by ZipRecruiter, our 2018 presenting sponsor and your own personal scouting department. ZipRecruiter uses its powerful technology to distribute your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards, then identifies the right people with the right experience, matches them, invites them to apply to your job. It's like having Bill Belichick scouting talent for you. The Bill Belichick from a few years ago, not the one who couldn't give us a good defense. Anyway, my listeners can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Also, a State Farm agent has the knowledge and experience to anticipate your needs. And with State Farm, you get more than just an agent. You get a teammate that gets what matters most to you. So go to statefarm.com to get an agent that gets you. Should also mention Cousin Sal against all odds. Football season might be over, but Cousin Sal and the degenerate trifecta are heating up. They're betting on the Winter Olympics. They're betting on college basketball. They're relying on people like Tate Frazier. They're relying on some of our Oscars people like Sean Fennessy for Oscars gambling picks. All that stuff is on the Against All Odds podcast. Football ends. The podcast gets better, weirder, stranger. Remember, there's always stuff to gamble on. Also, House of Carbs, our old friend Joe House, who refuses to come on this podcast now. He's too big for it. But House of Carbs had Eric Rydholm last week talking about what life is like being gluten-free. And then this week, Adam Rappaport, little Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there, by the way. Adam Rappaport talking about Valentine's Day food and ideas on that front. Check that out. Subscribe to House of Carbs. Don't forget about theringer.com. We are covering NBA All-Star Weekend videos, social, podcasts, all kinds of stuff. And then the Winter Olympics, which our staff surprisingly likes. Roger Sherman has kind of thrown himself into that. He's been writing a lot of Winter Olympic stuff. I don't know if you've been watching. I find myself repeatedly getting sucked in. Check that out, theringer.com. Coming up, Scooter Braun. We've circled each other for a while. I think he's done other podcasts. He's never done one like this. Long, wide-ranging conversation about basketball, music, some of the stars he's worked with, whole bunch of stuff. There's no way you will not enjoy this one. First, Pearl Jam. Scooter Braun in the house. Ringer staff very excited for this podcast.
I'm excited too.
They don't know where it's going.
Yeah, we have no clue where this is going to go. This is going to be fun.
How's he sound? All right.
Good.
Yeah, the sitting positions are always interesting. You're like very the laid back position.
Yeah.
Basketball. Let's start there. What do I need to know about you in basketball?
I thought basketball was going to be my whole life growing up. My dad is a coach, high school and AAU. I played AAU. Played for the state team, went to play D3 and broke my dad's heart because I wanted to start as a freshman, not sit the bench. Didn't last long in college anyway because I started my business.
I was going to say, you lasted like a year in college, right?
Yes, because my best friend is Jay Williams, played at Duke. And I was seeing Jay on the cover of Sports Illustrated and no one cared about our games. So I was like, I don't know if I want to play. And I started business and one thing led to another, but
what college was it? I forget.
Emory.
Yep.
And then I've always just loved the game. My brothers all played D1. I had two brothers who played at Brown. I had another brother who played at Georgetown and then transferred and led American University to the NCAA tournament.
So you're like the failure of the family to your dad.
Yeah, pretty much. I was the bum. I'm the shortest, probably least athletic, and the oldest of four boys and a girl. And my sister was a D1 lacrosse player. But I got the best jump shot in the family.
Oh,
by far. By far.
So you were that kid in college who you showed up and you're immediately like trying to make money from parties and T-shirts, and you were that kid.
I was that kid only because I didn't like being broke.
Yeah.
I had never been to a nightclub when I got to college. And I just saw an opportunity to make some money because everyone in my school had credit cards. And my dad was like, well, I was broke in school, so now you're broke in school. And
so what was like the breakthrough? What was the first thing you did that was like, oh shit, I can make money from this?
Fake IDs. Yeah, it was a buddy of mine was selling fake IDs.
What year is this?
This is my freshman year, so it was beginning of 2000. I get to school, 2001, and he's making amazing New York fake IDs, but he's horrible at marketing and selling them. He's selling them, but he's going to get caught.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, we're going to switch this up. I'm going to be a part of this. And I laid out a whole plan how we would fly into state schools under false names on the weekends, sell as much as we could using AirTran X fares for $50 flights, and then leave before anyone realized we were. And that was the rule. Never keep in touch with anyone. And then he kept in touch with some people. So I bailed. And sure enough, he got caught 4 months later. And
that
then,
was wasn't that like a felony?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm going to deny everything.
Okay. That was like pretty illegal back then. Now the IDs are too good. Yeah, I don't think you can fake them.
I have no idea. I mean, I probably made up that entire story just now. And then I was walking by this nightclub and I said to the guy, if I bring some people here next week, would you give me some money? And he was like, yeah, sure. How many people? I was like, well, how many people do you hold? And he said 800. I was like, cool, I'll do that. And he looked at me like I was crazy. I went to Kinko's. I made flyers. I called it Kryptonite Entertainment because I was a Superman fan. And
so you created a fake company?
A fake company, the whole thing, Kryptonite Entertainment, and everything else. And then within 6 months, I was the largest college party promoter in the country revenue wise, and the rest is kind of history.
Did you have to hire a staff, or were you?
I had just a bunch of freshman girls passing out flyers for me that I was friends with because I had a high school sweetheart. So I was friends with all these girls. I wasn't threatening to them.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, can you pass these out for me? And I'll give you free drinks and free access for you and your girls. And when you get all the freshman girls coming, the whole school comes. And I started learning to promote. And I met this guy, Jason Weaver, at my first party. He was an actor. And he said, do you want to see how the other half lives? And I said, what does that mean? He goes, black people. And in Atlanta at the time, white people went to techno clubs. Yeah. And black people went to hip hop clubs. And I didn't like techno at that time. So he and I went, and I was very comfortable being a minority. I was a minority on my AAU basketball team my whole life.
Yeah.
So we went in, and this promoter named Alex Gidewan, who's still the biggest club owner now in in Atlanta, he was the biggest promoter within the black community. And Alex kind of took me in and taught me the ropes of promoting. And that was how I learned how to run a cut line and how to do different things. When I came back to New York, this guy, Mark Baker, was opening Lotus in New York City. And he took me under his wing and taught me how to, build that type of brand. And that's how I became a big promoter. But I just hated the stigma of it. I didn't want to be a guy someday who had kids and had to go to a nightclub. And, I met Jermaine Dupri along the way, and he said, why don't you come learn this over here? I became the vice president at SOSADEF. I was 20 years old. The first artist I ever worked was Ludacris, Throw Them Bows at my parties. So I was like the white boy of Atlanta at a time when Atlanta was on the rise. And it was great. And a lot of these guys became up together. I knew Jeezy when he was an actual drug dealer, before he was rapping. We were friends. Yeah. He would come to my parties. But yeah, it's funny we're doing the podcast today because last night I was looking at this picture of my family, and I just had this surreal moment of like, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah.
And kind of reflecting on it all, and just very lucky and blessed.
So when you went to college, were you just like, I'm going to take some classes and play basketball? And
yeah,
none of that other stuff even occurred to you?
No, I didn't know anything but basketball. Yeah. I mean, I was that kid who I just played basketball and went to house parties with my girlfriend. And I didn't know anything else. I know I wanted to do a lot more. And that's why I chose Atlanta and Emory, because I wanted to go far away from where I was from, where no one knew me. And I wanted a city, and I wanted to build something.
Yeah.
But basketball was kind of like my whole life until that point. So I didn't really know what the plan was when I got there.
So a little luck there too, because you got to Atlanta right as this whole music scene is kind of turning into its own entity.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who's successful and says that they created their own luck is an asshole.
Yeah.
I think if you're born in the United States now, you already won the lottery. You're not born in a third world country. You're not born into a situation that's rough. Like, you already won, geographic luck.
Yeah.
And then if you're born, in the circumstances I was where each generation things were getting better, that already makes me incredibly lucky. And then being in Atlanta, I read a book about David Geffen called The Operator, which changed my life. And in the book, he said he wanted to be in entertainment, but movies took years, TV took years, and a song can change your life in a night. And that made me look at kind of my surroundings in Atlanta. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this music thing because it's here.
Yeah.
And
and it's happening.
Yeah, and it was happening. And, you know, it was when I joined Jermaine, the first thing I worked on was the Young Bloods, and then Anthony Hamilton and Jaquan. And if you look closely, I'm in the Ludacris stand-up video.
Really?
Yeah, I'm the club promoter in it, dancing around with the big girl. But you know, we all came up together, and it was fun, and we were all young and exciting, and you know, you were going into neighborhoods. I went into Bankhead, and my buddy said, go check out this group. It was called the Shop Boys, and I wasn't a fan of the group, but I connected them with this producer I was friends with named Pitt that I was managing at the time, and we made a song called Party Like a Rock Star, and it became the #1 ringtone, and it was just like a wild time.
Any strip joints with Gucci or no?
No, but funny, Gucci doesn't know this, but he had a guy working with him years and years ago. This is before Coach K, and I had a little studio in Atlanta, and he came to use it, and they didn't pay.
Oh, come on, Gucci.
Yeah, literally, they owed me like $6,000, and it was like I couldn't afford to not have $6,000 back then. And like his guys just weren't paying, and I had to like figure out how to get paid by these guys, and they're like, oh, it's Gucci's got it, you know, and they didn't pay. And I literally, to this day, I remember they were the only bill that never got paid. And before, I had the relationships that like people would pay me because you had to, you know, let people know you couldn't be fucked with in Atlanta at that time. But Gucci was...
So you had people killed?
No, I didn't have people killed, but he was one of those guys that I just didn't want to go there. I was just like, sure, whatever. Yeah,
keep the $6,000, Gucci.
Yeah, but it was. I actually put it on my buddy who booked it, this manager I had for the studio. I was like, you need to figure this out or it's on you. It was kind of like, I always ran things like I saw in the mafia movies.
Yeah.
Where if someone didn't pay money owed, the person who took responsibility had to carry that weight.
Right.
And that was like everything I saw in the mob movies. Like, you vouched, you pay. And meanwhile, I was just like a kid trying to figure it out, like watching these movies.
How many years between the Atlanta scene taking off and America realizing that the Atlanta scene was taking off, the rest of the country? Was it like
pretty
9
quick.
months, a year?
No, it was
6 months?
Look, it was pretty quick. I think for me, it was taking off. I was 19 when I got there, and we started doing that. And then at like 2021, I started traveling first time, like coming out to LA and everything. And everywhere I went, New York and LA, all the clubs, all they did was play our music.
Yeah. So you knew.
So it was about 2 years before it really came together. But it wasn't because of one artist. It was because of everything that was happening in Atlanta in that community. Everyone was kind of supporting each other. Everyone was collaborating. You know, Welcome to Atlanta with Jermaine is a great example of what was taking place there, because the actual original one was just all these artists in Atlanta coming together. And it was just a mecca. It was a hub. And it was a great place for a young guy who's entrepreneurial to be, because Atlanta gave me everything.
So you figured out quickly, club promoter, I can make a lot of money, but I'm up till 4 a.m, 4 nights a week, and I'll be burned out in 10 years. And that's not a great long-term path for me.
I don't want to speak badly on anybody, but there was a promoter I got to know really well, and everybody was admiring his life because he drove a really nice car and he had a young girlfriend, and I would rather be my father than him all day long.
Yeah. And
my father was my hero. So, you know, I didn't want that life because it wasn't the life I aspired to. Like, I remember my dad. It's
a fun life when you're 26, but not when you're like
It wasn't
38.
even fun at 26. It wasn't like I was doing it at 20. You got to understand, if you were to talk to Ludacris and his manager Shaka, or actually DJ Irie, who's the official DJ of the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
The way he and I met was I was doing the Ludacris Eminem after party for Ludacris after the tour that he was on with Eminem in Miami. He's the biggest, you know, DJ in Miami, and he comes to the door of Mansion, I think it was at the time. And I'm not letting him in because I'm like, you're on the guest list, but you only have 3 and you're here with 8 people. And he's like, do you know who I am? I was like, I don't care. And he went on the radio the next day to talk shit about this kid. By the way, it was a 21 and up club. I was 20. So it was just a weird existence.
Yeah. What was your big break to like officially become a guy in music?
Jermaine. I mean, really was Ludacris. Ludacris and Shaka put me in the music business. And that party made a name for myself because I got Showtime through a friend to sponsor it. And at the time, corporations weren't sponsoring rappers. Jay-Z hadn't done the Nike shoe yet. Like, it wasn't happening. And so that kind of gave me a little bit of a name. But it was Jermaine. Jermaine Dupri asked me to go out one night and meet him in Atlanta. And he took me to the bottom of this place called Dragonfly Lounge. He was doing his best friend's birthday upstairs, Eddie Skeeter Rock Weathers. And we went downstairs, and I'll never forget the meeting because we sat on these tall kind of bar stools. And Jermaine is not the tallest man. And while he was giving me this speech, his feet were dangling. And I was so fascinated with how short he was that his feet could dangle from these benches. But he said to me, "You're never going to get to mansions throwing parties." And I was like, well, I'm actually doing pretty well. But and he said, "You're never going to get to mansions throwing parties. And why don't you come work with me?" And within 6 months, I was the vice president at So Set Up Records running marketing. And
did you have people being like, "What the fuck does this kid know? He was in college for a year and he's 21."
Well, no, because I was running a pretty big business in Atlanta at the time.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
I was, running.
So you had nothing to prove at that point.
I was making a lot more money throwing parties than what Jermaine was paying me.
Yeah.
So no one was really questioning it, and I was like his whiz kid. I was this young kid, and I started developing things pretty fast and became one of the biggest earners in the company pretty quickly.
What are you wearing at this point? What's your attire?
Pretty much the same thing, jeans and a t-shirt. I mean, part of the conversation was Jermaine's like, "I'm gonna have you dressing different. I'm gonna have you full hip hop. You're gonna be sagging those pants a little bit lower." And I literally looked at him and I said, "No, you're not, because hip hop is expression, and this is exactly who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not changing for anybody. The only difference between what I wear now and what I wear then probably is I had a giant puffy So Def jacket that said Scooter. And I used to rock that everywhere because I was proud. But yeah, he gave me an opportunity and took me out of Atlanta. Now we were flying to LA and I was watching Usher make Confessions, and we're flying to Europe, and I'm seeing the world in a way I never saw before, and making relationships that I never had before. And that's why I say all the time, Jermaine Dupri and Steve Rifkind changed my life. Shaka Zulu from Ludacris put me in the game, him, his brother Jeff. But Jermaine gave me my first big job, and Steve Rifkin gave me my first big record deal when no one else would.
And you show up at this time in music where it's officially transitioning from bands and solo artists to just solo artists. And you think about like the 2000 to 2005 range was the last time we really like created new bands. You had like Coldplay, The Strokes, The Killers, Kings of Leon. That was kind of the last generation.
And now they're coming back.
And now it's like the nostalgia of that era is now becoming a thing
again.
again.
Yeah, Greta Van Fleet, the Spencer Lee Band. Like, you're starting to see bands really come back in a big way now.
New bands or the older
these are
bands?
brand new bands. That are
so you think bands are coming back?
Yeah.
I hope so.
No, they are.
I'm really bored.
Greta Van Fleet is like blowing up, and Spencer Lee Band is blowing up, and like these are new bands that are making incredible records that people are really excited about, that really throw back, that feel new but definitely play off classic rock.
Yeah.
And people are excited in their live instrumentation, everything else. Like, music is cyclical. Music.
I hope you're right, because I was worried that bands had played every variation of a band song.
No. It always works like that. Why do we have new boy bands every couple generations?
Because they're so handsome.
Why are you not in a boy band is the real question.
I really wanted it. Nobody ever asked me.
I heard you got moves.
Yeah, I was ready.
But
you definitely heard Raw.
It goes in circles, and I think that will happen. But also at that time, Maroon 5 was coming out, because I remember Jermaine was obsessed because Maroon 5 was really using like break beats.
Yeah.
And I think music goes in these cycles, and I think we're going into a cycle where we're going to see a resurgence of bands.
In the Defiant Ones, there's this part when Jimmy Iovine, when he hears the Chronic, and the Chronic is just bombing left and right with every person they bring it to, and nobody gets it. And he listens to it, and he's so impressed by the production. That's why he liked it. It wasn't even the music as much as like, who produced this? And Dr. J's like, I did. It's like, this is amazing. And that's why he liked it. When you listen to music, are you listening to the music part or the production part, or like what catches your ear first? or the person himself or herself?
The way I hear music is kind of strange. Like I hear each instrument. So I try sometimes to kind of shut my brain off and not pay attention to the music so I can feel what someone would feel like they were just listening in their car.
Yeah.
The thing that moves me the most is it memorable? Because I got to think commercially.
Yeah.
And then 2, is there soul? Is there something emotional? Is there feeling when the person sings? Can you grasp something? And I think.
Is this why you weep when you hear Sam Smith? He just brings.
But you know what's
tears?
a really good example? Someone asked me to like break that down for them, and I said, if you listen, "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me" by the live version with George Michael and Elton John, go listen to the studio version with Elton John. Elton John is singing in the studio. It's very safe. Then go listen to the live version and see how he sings after George Michael sings the first verse, and because the emotion. He gets competitive, and the emotion comes out. And it is 10 times a better record live than it was in the studio because there was emotion in the voice. And I think that's what moves me the most because I grew up listening to a lot of different music in my parents' house. And that's why I always loved Michael Jackson because
he'd cry in songs.
Yeah, I mean, he was leaving it all.
Emotional. Every
single time. I mean, Michael made you believe every damn word. I mean, he was singing Man in the Mirror and you're like, yeah, I want to change my life.
That's my favorite Michael Jackson. It's not underrated, but I always feel like it should be in the discussion. And Man in
the Mirror is
it's a really great
record.
song.
100%.
Yeah. I feel the same way. This is going to sound weird, but in the Grammys, Neil Diamond and Barbra Streisand sang "You Don't Bring Me Flowers," which is a fine song if you hear it on the radio. But in the Grammys, it's like a moment.
And you cried.
Like they go out. I didn't cry.
You cried.
But you go out and you're like, wow, these two are going to start making out.
Everyone
like
remember
they have like so much
Bill
sexual
Simmons
chemistry.
wept while watching Neil Diamond and Barbra Streisand.
What a moment. Those two, they really took each other to a place. But we don't, those authentic moments are harder and harder to find in music because so much of it is orchestrated and so much of how people put out albums now, you can kind of see their brain. It's kind of the Taylor Swiftization of putting out albums where they're putting out the album, but you can see all the brain mechanics behind every decision they made before they did it. I think Timberlake just now, JT is the latest example of puts out the man, what's it called? The Man in the Woods, Man of the Woods. Puts out the little weird video first. And
look, you never really know because there's a lot of different people behind it. Sometimes it's the artist, sometimes it's the person behind the artist, sometimes it's someone come up with a random idea. I mean, when we did the Justin Bieber roast, which was our first thing in bringing him back, that was an idea. That was an idea from an intern in my office. I sat down the whole office and I said, "How should I, plan out this thing?" And Ava, who now works for me full time, was an intern at the time, and she said, "My generation doesn't want to see a sit down interview. We want to see, like a roast." And I said, "Okay, let's go do a roast." And it was 100% her idea. And, I got a lot of credit for it. Justin got credit, but it was really an idea from an intern. And I think...
Well, you know what really helped him, though? He put out a couple of songs that were really good.
Smashes. Good music heals everything.
Guess what? When you put out a good song that everybody
you
can
put out
sing
Love
and
Yourself
dance to,
and What Do You Mean
win.
and Where Are You Now? And
I knew he was back.
Sorry.
My daughter was like... when did Sorry come out? How many years ago?
3.
Yeah. So my daughter got into that like maybe 4th grade.
2 or 3. God, I can't remember.
Yeah, whatever. 4th grade, 5th grade, and just loved that song. I was like, Biebs is back, man.
Yep.
He's got my 9.5-year-old daughter. He's good. All the sins have washed away. But yeah, I mean,
I'm just going to check with you this next album. I'm going to be like, bring her over. We're going to play her some tunes. If she's into it, we're solid. Because that's the way I've always done it. I've always actually gone to fans and like tested it.
Guess what? If you put out a song that people like, it heals everything. If JT had a song on that last album that was like, wow, that's a great fucking song. That album's fine. Everybody's talking about how good it is. You just need that one. You need the one thing that every once in a while.
It's music. It's people forget it actually is a music business. So they talk about what this person and that person and this person, but great music, it really is all it comes down to.
Yeah, rarely.
That's why I think Off the Wall was a better album than Thriller, and this is very controversial for people. You want to know why? You want me to go there?
I mean, I'll listen to it. I'm not going to agree with you, but go
you want
ahead.
me to tell you why you should?
Go ahead.
Thriller was an amazing album. But people forget that Michael's first album wasn't Off the Wall. It was called Michael Forever. It had a green cover, him lying in the grass.
Yeah.
And it was a complete flop. And they had to put out another Jackson's album in between because it was such a flop. People forget nobody messed with Michael Jackson. His career was over. It wasn't the Jackson 5. Like, no one was thinking Michael Jackson's going to be this big solo artist.
Yeah.
And then Off the Wall came out, and it was so amazing that everyone lost their minds and he became Michael Jackson. So that when Thriller came out, he was set up. And I always say the hardest album isn't the album that goes to the next level. It's the one that defines you. It's
the setup album.
It's the one that carries you over the hump.
It's like making the conference finals and hoops.
Justin Bieber was hated, but we made Purpose, and it changed everything. And that's why whatever we do next, I would still say Purpose was more important because it set everyone up that his next album, everyone assumes, oh, it's going to be a huge smash. But everyone assumed on Off the Wall and on Purpose that both of those guys were done. And when an album transcends you from a place of hatred to love, I think that's the more important album. And that is my pitch on why I messed down.
That's an NBA thing.
Yeah.
It's the season before the season.
100%.
Like the Warriors lose Game 7 of the Clips, and Steph Curry goes toe-to-toe with Chris Paul, and Klay Thompson is going to another level. And I went to that game, and I left that game thinking, like, those guys are going to be special. Like, there's something's going to happen with that team.
But I still think you got to win a championship. Off the Wall was still the championship. It just wasn't.
Well, Thriller was the Thriller.
No, Off the Wall was a huge.
Thriller was 16-0 in the playoffs.
Yeah, listen, Off the Wall was a championship without breaking records in games 1.
Off the Wall had
but Thriller's like, breaking the Scottie Pippen Michael Jordan team record for wins and winning the championship.
72
yeah, exactly. Like that's what Thriller was, but it doesn't matter because it was them becoming a team the first season before that made you say, okay. So yeah, I think it is basketball. Everything relates to basketball.
Relates to basketball.
Basketball is life was an actual sign in my house. So it was.
Well, even what you said about when you were saying how you can hear an album or a song and you can hear all the different instruments in it. The only thing I can do that with is when I watch a basketball game, and I don't even totally have the talent anymore. I used to be able to go to a game and I could see all the different players at the same time and what they were doing. And now, because I don't go to as many games, my brain isn't. It takes a while for it to come back. But I used to be able to sit there and I could be like, I see that guy, I see the pick coming,
you see the down screen coming,
and everything that was going on, I could just see it. And people hear music that way, and I'm always jealous of it because I always wish I could hear music that way, but I can't.
Listen, I'll talk basketball all day long. The highlight of my career isn't a music thing.
What is it?
It's Chris Paul did a podcast on Jesse Williams' podcast.
Yeah. And
Jesse Williams asked him who in the entertainment business can hoop. And he said Chris Brown, and he said, do you know Scooter Braun? He has an NBA range jump shot.
Wow.
And that was the highlight of my career. Everything else, I literally made my office cut that out of a 45-minute
just playing on a
podcast
loop
and just send it to me so I could send it out to everyone I know. Because it was Chris Paul, literally, that was
amazing.
The highlight. A future Hall of Famer saying that I have an NBA-level jump shot. And he's right. He's dead on about that. And no one should disagree with him. He's Chris Paul.
Rich Paul has a nice game, too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure.
Have you played with him?
Yeah, I haven't played with Rich. We're buddies. We probably should get on the court and see what happens.
He's got a good game. I mean, he's short, but it's effective. He uses it's like speed and quickness.
He's like Muggsy, or can he shoot?
Nah, he's a little better than Muggsy. He can shoot.
I like how you said he's better than a guy who had 14 seasons in the NBA. Yeah. He's better than Muggsy Bogues, who's the starting point guard for the Atlanta Hawks.
You're right. He's probably not better, but it was, I guess, a more complete offensive game. We were talking about how a good song solves everything. The only time I can remember this not being the case was when Kanye put out Famous, which I thought was one of his best songs that he's ever made, but there was so much of a circus around it. What do you mean? We just had it.
Hold on. That's not true. We had the biggest tour of his entire career.
No, I'm saying that song came out and the hullabaloo of the song overshadowed the song.
No, but listen. I think
I just love the song. I was like, why are people just talking about what a good song this is?
I think, look, Kanye and his family are, in the limelight in a way that very few people will ever understand. Like, they come over for a movie and there are people like just camped outside my house, and
like paparazzi.
Yeah, just paparazzi, like with ladders. Like it's weird. And but at the end of the day, he's an absolute creative genius, and I think that album Life of Pablo is the first album that only was released streaming that ever went #1 on the Billboard chart.
Yeah.
And the tour that he did with the Floating Stage, that tour is the biggest tour of his entire career. It's the best show I think I've ever been to as far as the energy and everything else. And Chris Rock came and he was like, at the Garden, and he was like, I've seen everyone play the Garden. This is the best show I've ever seen.
Wow.
And the genius is Kanye. So we're in...
Wait, hold on. Let's take a break because I have a lot of Kanye.
Okay.
All right, taking a break. Has your company outgrown QuickBooks? Are shared spreadsheets, manual processes, and legacy systems costing you time and money? Introducing NetSuite by Oracle, the business management software that handles every aspect of your business in an easy-to-use cloud platform. Save time, money, unneeded headaches by managing sales, HR, and finance and accounting instantly right from your desk or even your phone. Thousands of the best known and fastest growing companies use NetSuite to manage their business. Now it's available to you. Don't miss out on unleashing your business's full potential with their free guide, Crushing the 5 Barriers to Growth. That's what it's called. Learn how to acquire new customers, increase profits, finally get real visibility into your cash flow. Get NetSuite's guide, Crush the 5 Barriers to Growth, at netsuite.com/BS. Once again, free, netsuite.com/BS. And since we're here, our friends at Squarespace make it easy to build beautiful websites. Whether you're planning to start a business, change careers, or launch a creative project, you should absolutely be tackling your next move with Squarespace. Widely used by all kinds of people and businesses, Squarespace lets you create an online platform with which you can make your latest goals into a reality. You can even get a unique domain, which strengthens your brand. I know TheRinger.com has strengthened my brand and makes it easier for visitors to find you. Whether you need a landing page, beautiful gallery, professional blog, online store, whatever. It's all included in your Squarespace website. Add and arrange your content and features with the click of a mouse. Nothing to install, patch, upgrade ever. They have an award-winning 24/7 customer support team as well that is ready to help you out. Start a free trial today at squarespace.com. Use offer code BS. You get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Once again, squarespace.com. Use offer code BS for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Back to my new best friend, Scooter Braun. Coming back. I want to go backwards. When do you meet Kanye? This is Kanye's... I have a lot of Kanye thoughts, so I want to dive into
I'm going to be careful how much I say out of respect for him.
Give me the whole history.
Kanye and I met originally on the Ludacris stand-up video. He had just signed to Rockefeller. He was a producer, wasn't an artist yet, as far as like putting out music.
Did he know John Legend yet?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. And he was at the video, and I'm starring in the video, and he does a cameo in the video because he's the producer of the song. And we met on the side, kind of talking to each other. And then I did Music Midtown in Atlanta. I consulted for them, and I booked all the stages, and I booked Kanye, and like we hung out there. And we kind of just saw each other over the years because he had a manager at the time, John Monopoly, who always looked out for me, who like knew me from my parties and just was always a good dude who kind of looked out for me when he didn't need to. And then years later, Kanye puts out that tweet saying he's $56 million in debt, and I'm his friend. So I called him just to say, are you okay? No business, nothing. And then we started talking, and he's like, you should manage me, be part of this team. I said, I don't want to manage you. I just want to be your friend.
What year are we talking here?
This is about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And I said, I don't want to do that. I just want to be your buddy. And literally a week later, I said, when you get back in town in 2 weeks, we'll sit down and talk and see how I can help you out. But it wasn't like work together. And I get a phone call 2 days later from Def Jam and from Adidas, both saying, we were told to talk to you, that you're Kanye's manager. And I call him up, and I'm like, dude, what the hell? And he's like, I don't have time to wait. You're it. You're in. And
wow.
I became his manager from that point on. We started co-managing with Izzy, and we've been managing Kanye for 2 years.
So the famous tour was
huge. Which I always joke around because he will be one of my favorite people forever. Like he's my brother from this point on. And I joke around like I could be with him for 10 years or I could be like done next week and we're back to being friends. Like,
well, my fear is like he just never makes another album.
Listen,
it's conceivable, right?
I think that will be up to him.
Right.
But I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to give any hints. That will completely be up to
I'm
him.
not saying you have to give hints. I'm just saying, as somebody who enjoys him, my fear is like he'll never make another album. That'll be it. He'll just do other stuff, and then
We'll
it'll be,
see.
yeah, remember when Kanye made music? And
Yeah, we'll
like,
see.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
We'll see. You know, one of the moments I was telling you about this floating stage, when I was like, he is an absolute genius.
Yeah.
So we're doing rehearsals for 2 days before the show opens in the Midwest. And all we have is a floating stage. Like, we talked about doing a B stage where he comes down for a little bit. And right now, all he wants is the floating stage going back and forth and the kind of the spaceship moment. And, you know, Izzy and I are talking about we should have a B stage prepared in case he wants to add it a couple shows in case like this doesn't carry, you know, for 2 hours. And I see Kanye walk out to the middle of the floor and he takes a phone and he's like looking down and he's shooting pictures. And Kanye's not like a selfie guy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what is he doing? So I walk over and I ask him and he says, I'm taking selfies to see what the fans will be doing, like what it looks like to make sure it's right because I'm building the show for them. And he knew the culture of where kids are today and what they like and what they do. And he built a show that would be shot by their iPhones better than any other show before it. And he had that innately in his mind. And he was absolutely right. We never needed a B stage. The show was crazy. I mean, we could have gone for 200 more shows if we didn't have to stop it after, you know, that tour. But it was, if you ask me, I don't want to, you know, I love all the shows I'm involved with. But that tour is something that like I wish was still going on so more people could see what would take place night after night. It was crazy. And it was all out of his mind.
So you don't see him touring again anytime soon?
No, I think he could tour again. I'm just saying that tour specifically. He'll build something new. But that tour was just the greatest thing I ever saw in my life. So it was, the floor would rock. Like people were moving, jumping up and down in such a rate, like the whole place. The crowd was as much part of the show as he was.
Yeah.
And it was anyone who went, it was like a kinship. Did you go?
Yeah.
There was like a kinship between us that we were there, that we could
Yeah.
like look at each other and be like, you were there, you experienced that. It's like when you talk to people who went to Burning Man, you know, they
Right.
kind of look at each other like the playa will provide, you know, like or you know, whatever it is. And, you know, they have this kinship that people who don't go to Burning Man
Do you think live music matters as much as it did? Because like when I was growing up, like let's take Bruce Springsteen. He put out an album, you bought it. He came through your town. You either saw him or you didn't. And that was it. Those are my Bruce Springsteen interactions. He might come on the radio. Now it's like, I can. You tell me about that Kanye thing. I could go on YouTube and watch it right now.
Yeah, but it's not the same. I think.
No, I know it's not. But I wonder if people.
I think people know that. I think that's why
you're right.
That's why these shows are selling out. That's why festivals have come back in such a big way. I think people want live experiences because there's so much behind their phone and so much behind their computers that they're desperately trying to break out. And I think that what we saw in our most recent election, and we've seen such a divide. You know, millennials are more socially conscious than any other generation before. And that's what all the data says. And I think they want to feel and touch and experience each other because they're so upset with what they've been given and what they're being told about the world they're coming into. So I actually think live music is on the rise, not on the fall. Why
do you think that all the stuff going on in this country hasn't 100% been reflected in the music yet? Because you've seen this in the 70s.
Yeah. Look, I'll be honest with you. It's as frustrating to me as probably it is to you. You know, in the 70s, it was reflected every single day.
By everybody.
100%. If you look at the civil rights movement.
You think the drugs just aren't good enough now? I think the drugs might have been better back then.
I think it's because artists are very sensitive people. You know, creative people are very sensitive. And there's just too many data points with social media. You know, before you could walk in a march and you felt like you were surrounded by people and you felt strong in that moment. And now with social media, you know, you have 100 different opinions hitting you all at once. And for many of them, it's paralyzing.
Yeah.
But I think that what we're going to see, and my hope, is that more and more artists are starting to speak out in a way they haven't before. And I think that people are going to realize they want to be on the right side of history. And they're going to start using their voices. And I'm hoping the music starts to reflect it as well. It's also because back then, radio stations were more regional. So you had a lot of PDs, program directors, taking risks And now these companies become huge conglomerates where it's like 4 people making the decision of what plays on every radio station around the country. And I think that I don't necessarily know if we're going to see it on radio, but I think we're going to see it in streaming. You know, we're going to see artists breaking through because that's where kids are now finding new music, because you're not finding on a radio with 4 people programming the whole country.
Yeah, my generation, you bought albums. I remember 8-tracks. I had a couple 8-tracks, CDs.
You should give an 8-track to your kid and tell them, say, how do you use this?
We used to carry these around.
Yeah, and just see what your daughter does. Like,
I think I might still have my Hall & Oates H2O 8-track.
Yeah, you should. Listen, someone gave a cassette tape to their kid. It's on YouTube. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, cassettes. Forgot about those.
And the kids were looking through them, and they were like, well, how do you plug it in?
What
like,
is it?
And they were so confused, and I felt so old. It was very upsetting to me.
Well, so then it switches this decade. Now it's like, it's almost like the playlist era. And, you know, I like Kanye. I have, I don't know, 32 songs of my favorite Kanye songs. They're just in a thing. You hit shuffle and they pop up. Mm-hmm. And he's one of the last people who actually tried to make albums. Now you see like the way they put out that last one where he basically like streamed it out. He's tweaking it after it's up, and he's still
The Life of Pablo is a living album.
Yeah, it was a living, breathing album.
That's what we said.
How many months? Like, is
a
it
while.
still going? Is he still
look,
if
he wanted to, if he said, call me up tomorrow and said, I want to change a mix or add a remix or something like that, we would call and make the change. That's why it was a Life of Pablo. It's living, breathing, changing album.
So is that where we're going?
Look, I don't know where we're going. What happens is you and I get to an age where we're old.
Yeah, and I'm already there, by the way. Okay, you're not there yet, but
I think I'm there. I'm starting to see with my interns. I'm there.
Yeah, I might take a break.
You had an 8-track, so I agree with you. You're there.
I have 8 tracks. I saw Bob Seger in 1980. I'm old.
Yeah, I was born in 1981.
Yeah, there you go. I'm old.
So I think what happens is we start to say the criticisms of how we see things.
Yeah,
and the next generation revolts and shows us the exact opposite, which happens every single generation. You know, it's everything in my life I found has been like a microcosm of something else. It's like when I learned how to promote parties, I can use all those skills in my business now. What I learned on the basketball court, I can use, in my life now. What I see from history, it repeats itself. It's like Coretta Scott King said, every generation has to fight the fight all over again.
Yeah.
I think that's whether it be social activism or the music industry, or it's just every generation has to figure it out for themselves. And usually what a lot of the things that drive them is our criticism of them. And I think...
it's much easier to criticize than it was 35 years ago, but it was still there 35 years ago.
100%.
When rock and roll came... Why did Michael Jackson have to go crazy? I don't know.
It's
why do most people who have a ton of success before
you want me to tell you why?
The age of 25? Yeah, because you had Bieber, who you're in from the ground floor on, and
we've turned it around.
Massive success at age 16, 17?
Yeah, through his entire teenage years, he's the most Googled person on the planet.
Yeah, that's not healthy.
And now he's going to turn 24, and he's an extremely healthy kid. And
but almost wasn't.
Almost was. We had 2 years that were horrible, where I would go to sleep at night wondering if he was still going to be there, and I was like trying to find him, but he had $100 million, he could run away.
Yeah.
Look, I think Justin figured out something that we talk about all the time, that is the only reason he did not go crazy. And that is that I'm going to get like spiritual on you here. But,
no, let's do it, man.
Okay. I don't think human beings were made to be worshipped. I think we were made to serve. I think we worship something upstairs, whatever it may be. I respect anybody for their beliefs, but there's something bigger than us that can be worshipped. I think as human beings, we're here to serve each other, and that's the only way we can keep our sanity. We hear all the time of a Fortune 100 CEO killing themselves, and we're like, oh, I can't believe with everything they had, they would kill themselves. But we're not surprised. But if I was to tell you, hey, there was a lifetime volunteer at a soup kitchen who killed themselves, you'd be like, that makes no sense to me. I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's because people who serve don't go crazy. People who give back don't go crazy. And people who don't, who just take and take and take and are worshipped and are just receiving, they lose their mind because they don't know where to give anything. So I think with celebrity, when you live on, far away by yourself and the whole world is just praising you all the time, Michael was probably at his happiest when he was helping people. but he was so alienated, he probably lost his mind, you know, and he abused himself and all these different things. But I can't speak to that. I didn't know him, but I know from my own experience dealing with celebrity at the highest level, the only way you survive is if you have an outlet to give. The only way.
Success, like real crazy success, I think also has its own demon where you spend all this time trying to get to where you think you want to go, and that's how many. You think about Kanye, how he started. Kanye is probably the all-time starting from nothing, doing everything possible to even get his first album out.
Justin too.
Yeah.
Justin.
Well, Justin.
Justin lived in the projects with a single mom who had him when he was 17 years old.
Yeah.
And no one in his family had ever been on an airplane, let alone left the town. Everyone in his family had substance abuse issues. And the first time I flew him and his mother to Atlanta was the first time she had ever been on an airplane.
Wow.
You know, so he and I were joking the other day because he took his mom to a private island in the Maldives for vacation. And I was like, do you know the first time I brought you to Atlanta, when I picked you up, do you know what you were freaking out about? That there was a refrigerator in your hotel room. Right. You know, and there's so many stories in Hollywood or in sports of people coming from nothing to something. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted your question.
I was just going to say that I think when you spend all this time trying to achieve something and then you actually achieve it, I think most of the time people look around and go, oh, fuck, this didn't make me 100% happy. And
I had that experience.
That's when they kind of lose their shit.
Yeah, I had that experience, and I got really good advice.
What was it?
When I got to Atlanta and I decided I was going to business, I wanted to be a billionaire. I was like, I'm going to be a billionaire. And then
because you wanted to buy an NBA team.
Actually, it was like, that sounds good. But after probably a month, I realized making $5,000 was really hard.
Yeah. And
being a billionaire was not a reasonable thing in my mind. And I met a guy who I had a life I wanted. He had the wife, the kids, the dog, the little whaler boat on Lake Lanier. Like, I was like, this dude has it. Like, he's the man. And I went and sat down with him and I said, how much to have your life? Like, how much money do I need to make to be comfortable in this life? And he gave me an extremely high but reasonable number. Like a number I felt like I could achieve. It wasn't close to billions. It wasn't even hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to work to my 50s, 60s to get to this number and have this life. And that was my number. I was 20 years old. I set my number, 2021. 27 years old, I'm driving by Cactus Car Wash in Atlanta, Georgia on Piedmont Road. And my accountant calls me to say something came in, investment, whatever it was, commissions. And he says, you know, just want to let you know it came in. Congratulations. And I said, cool, thanks. I hung up the phone and I thought about it. I called him back. I said, how much money do I have? And he said, what do you mean? I said, across all my accounts, how much cash do I have right now after taxes? And he named a number higher than my lifetime number.
Oh.
I was 27. And
that's when you tried heroin.
What happened was I kept driving for like a second and then I called my dad and I tell my dad what I was just told. And it's a strange thing. You're calling your father to say, hi, your 7-year-old son is the wealthiest person in the family.
Yeah.
And my dad is like, that's amazing. Oh my God. And I said, but Dad, here's the problem. I thought when I got here, I'd be happy. And it's not that I was happy or sad. My life just continued driving past Cactus Car Wash.
Yeah.
And then when it hit me that nothing changed in my emotions, I got incredibly depressed.
Yeah.
And my dad gave me the best advice in the world. He thought about it. He goes, do me a favor. I want you to hang up the phone. Think about when you were genuinely happy over the last year, and then I want you to call me back. And I was like, what? He's like, just do it. Hung up the phone, pulled over the car, thought about it for a couple minutes, called my dad back, and I was like, okay, it's going to sound crazy, but when I'm just sitting at night hanging out with my boys, you know, when I'm playing ball, when you get hot on the court, hit a couple threes in a row.
Yeah.
I was like, when I go to Children's Hospital, when I'm answering somebody randomly back on Facebook and like answering their question. And my dad goes, look, where you are now, you're in a place where you can have success. Success isn't money. Success is freedom to do the things that you actually love. He was like, so implement more of those things into your life and you'll get happiness. And as you get more money, you can implement more and more and more.
Yeah.
And goes back to what I said before about serving. At the end of the day, I'm happiest when I'm participating with other people. When I take away money, when I take away all these things, like I've had lots of amazing happy moments before I ever made money. And the more moments like that, the happier I am. And what I realize is we get older, we get in this place where we have to provide. And we got to go to the job every single day. And that's why we start to get broken down, because we're taking more and more time away from what actually makes us happy. And then we get to a place where you make the money and you're continuing in the rat race and you're like, what the hell did I do this for? And I want people to have the perspective that you can make a lot of money or not make a lot of money, but that it doesn't define your happiness. Your choice of balance in your life defines your happiness. The choice of how much you want to give to others, the choice of those friends and family you want to spend time with. If you make the conscious decision to do that anyway, I mean, what's the point of making money? To go on vacation. You go on vacation to spend quality time with people. You can implement more of that in your life right now. I'm in a fortunate position where I don't ever need to work ever again.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because I need the challenge. That is part of my happiness. But at the same time, if I don't get home to put my kids to sleep because I decided to stay for a meeting, I'm an asshole. Like, I try to get home every night to put my boys to sleep because I know when they go to sleep, I can kiss my wife and say, I got to go do this, and I can go back out. But I'm not going to miss those years because the whole point of me doing all this was to have that in the first place.
Yeah. We're going to take a break. Hey, for all you guys that love discovering cool-ass new products that you just can't find everywhere, I need to tell you about BespokePost.com. Bespoke Post, a subscription club that offers monthly themed boxes curated from unique and upcoming brands around the world, a wide variety of box themes, including style, grooming, cooking, drinking, traveling. They cover all the bases, no commitments once you're assigned your box on the first of each month. You have 5 days to keep it, switch it, or skip it. Visit bespoke.com, bespokepost.com. So it's BESPOKE post.com, and answer a few short questions that will help you gauge your interest, help them gauge your interest and get a feel for the boxes that vibe with your style. Each subscription box goes for only $45, but contains more than $70 worth of goods. They sent us some last week. And normally I just let the staff take them, but I grabbed a whole bunch of stuff. They had they had good shaving stuff. I could have given it to Tate. I was like, screw Tate. He can go to hell. I'm taking the shaving stuff. I need shaving stuff. To receive 20% off your first subscription box. I didn't really do that, by the way. I let the staff take it. Go to bespokepost.com and enter promo code BS at checkout. Once again, bespokepost.com. Theme boxes for guys that give a damn. Meanwhile, with over 19,000 State Farm agents nationwide, you can get an agent that gets you, as well as Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid get each other, which is the focus of the Ringer's new NBA relationships goals video. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, they have a couple things in common. One, they both sat out their first seasons, and Joel even sat out more than that. But they mesh pretty well together. It's weird. They both have these weird inside-outside unconventional games. Simmons is a better passer, Embiid is a better scorer. They just kind of make sense together, and their size makes them really special. No duo in the NBA, I think, has a higher upside than Simmons and Embiid, that's under 25. Unless you want to say Giannis and anybody. I would go with Simmons and Embiid, though. Check out that video on TheRinger.com, The Ringer's YouTube channel, youtube.com/TheRinger, The Ringer's Facebook or Twitter. And remember, like teammates on the court, a relationship with a State Farm agent sets you up for success. Off the court, go to statefarm.com to get an agent that gets you. Back to my best friend, Scooter Braun. All right, so you've worked with a bunch of uniquely talented people. Do any of them have a common thread or a common DNA strand or a common something? Or is it each situation is totally different?
I mean, there's a lot of things you can compare in their lives because a lot of them are living these really crazy lives. But I think each situation is really different.
Yeah.
Each person is different. Each personality is different. Each family dynamic is different. Even the age differences in some of them make things very different. Does
there have to be a certain level of competitiveness to get that level?
Yeah, I think you got to be slightly narcissistic to be a superstar.
Yeah, I would say more than slightly.
It's very similar to sports.
Yeah.
It's like I got to meet Michael Jordan for the first time a couple years back, and he was everything I expected him to be. Like, he wanted to kill me in a conversation, like, and I was like, this dude is the most competitive human being ever. We were talking Duke versus UNC, and he was so aggressive.
Yeah.
But and you watch these interviews with Kobe where he was like, I'm not there to be nice to you. I'm there to kill you. And I think the same thing with superstars. I mean, I always say, if you want to know someone's a superstar, imagine them going into a room and it's a club and there's like a microphone and they're like, oh, I'm not going to sing tonight. They're playing it cool. But then other artists start to sing. If they're like playing it cool, they're not probably in the mode of being a superstar. Either they've already become it or they're not on the way up. They need to dominate every room that they go into. And very similar to basketball. You could put anybody in a pickup game and put Kobe Bryant in a pickup game. He's not just going to let you just play with Kobe Bryant. He's going to mess you up.
I used to believe in this theory, especially with the All-Star game. When the All-Star game mattered, it was a great way you watch the game unfold, and eventually there's alpha dogs on both sides because that's just how basketball works. Now they don't play. Two things happen. One, they don't play as hard. And two, there's been that kind of Kobe/Westbrook, I'm just shooting every time, but I don't know if that necessarily means you're the alpha dog. You're just
and
a
also
ball
guys
hog.
don't want to get hurt. There's a lot of money
Guys
on
don't
the
want to
line.
get hurt. So Westbrook's playing 15% harder than everybody else. I don't know if that makes him the alpha dog, but I'm with you. Like, basketball, the Olympics are good for this.
Dude, the Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson secret game.
Oh, yeah. But the
2008
Olympics, where were they, in Greece? And Spain is kind of coming at them, and it's this weird, they're between two generations. And at some point, somebody had to like take over the game.
I think it was Chris Paul.
Well, it became
The
Kobe.
next one, 2012, Chris Paul took over that game when they needed
2008, it was Kobe.
It was Kobe, right.
What's weird is it was never LeBron in either of those situations. But yeah, in 2008, Kobe's like, I got this. And everybody's like, thank God Kobe's got this,
No,
and in 12, it was Chris
instinct.
Paul in London.
Yeah, Chris
I was
Paul
at
in
that
London.
game.
I remember he like took over. He kind of got to a place where he was like, this isn't going down like this.
I got this.
I'm taking over this game.
Yeah, there needs to be an I got this guy. So yeah, with music, I can only imagine.
I'm a Knicks fan growing up. We're in use of an I got this guy. We need one.
You've needed it. I got this guy
now
for
I got this
decades.
guy just tore his ACL. Poor guy. We lost our unicorn for the season.
You know, it was a great one when one of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fames when Prince came in. Remember that one? They're all playing guitar, and then Prince came in and was like, fuck you guys. And just like blew everybody off the stage. I think it's tougher, though, with where music is now, where everybody's kind of an individual. It's hard. If you
still see the killer instinct. I mean, here's the thing. It's very different because music is, as much as you need the killer instinct, like you learned from the Michael Jordan years when Phil started sitting him in the third quarter, that you have to develop the other players to win a championship. Everyone has to have confidence in their ability when their time comes. And it's a team sport. And the same thing is music. Music's very collaborative. You need to kind of everyone, but there still is that killer instinct in everything in life that goes a long way. But at the same time, it can help you. It can also destroy you, because if you really believe it's all you don't win championships. If you have the killer instinct, but you're able to lift up everyone around you while doing it, because that was the thing that made Michael so great, towards the end of his career and all those championships. He got to a place where he figured that out. Before it was, I'm going to score 60 points on Larry and lose.
I have to dominate you.
Yeah. But he would lose.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point of like, I'm still going to be Michael, but everyone on this court is accountable to the same effort and work that I'm putting in, and I'm going to lift everybody up with me.
And then turn it on when you
and then
to.
6 championships.
Yeah.
And by the way, no one talks about the fact that Scottie Pippen also like basically averaged a triple-double almost.
Well, that Scottie Pippen was an MVP candidate that one year. Jordan sat out.
And he had like basically almost a triple-double that season.
That.
He was awesome and lost to the Knicks in Game 7.
I preach to the choir of Pippen. He's one of my historical guys.
I agree. Pippen
is funny now.
I've
noticed, and I know this is a cranky old guy thing, but like, especially like at the Ringer, like we have a lot of younger people. Like 2 of them are in the room right now. And although these 2 are bad examples because they actually understand basketball history, but there is a sense like people, I can feel it with the under 30s where their basketball history kind of starts with Kobe. Mm-hmm. and like Kobe and Shaq. It's like the first thing they can remember. And there's this whole generation of fans now who just weren't there for Jordan, much less
Same
Bird
way
and
I wasn't
Magic.
there for Julius Erving.
Right.
I didn't really know anything about Julius
I wasn't
Erving.
there for Bill Russell, so I had to just kind of trust the stories.
Yeah, the Bernard King story is always one of my favorites, and I wasn't there for that. The return when he came back into the game. Because as a Knicks fan, you heard that lore. But I mean...
Well, that was one of the 84 Celts went against Bernard, and it was basically just Bernard and a bunch of, not scrubs, but none of them were all-stars or anything. And the Celtics had this 5 Hall of Famers. And Bernard just went toe-to-toe with them. He took him to a game 7.
Season,
it was unbelievable. I was the only New York guy. The only 2 New York athletes I've ever rooted for were him and Doc Gooden.
Doc Gooden?
I just got caught up in it. Doc Gooden was, in the mid-'80s, was like just otherworldly. There was nobody like him. You know, it was like 16, 17 strikeouts. Where do you see music going? What's next?
Look, I think you'll see a resurgence of rock.
So rock bands you think are coming back?
I think rock bands will come back.
How about socially conscious music?
I'm hoping so.
Who's our best bet? Because Kendrick kind of already put out the album before the election even happened, which if he just held it a year, it would have been like, oh, that album's about the election.
I don't know who our best bet is. It might be songs, it might be a movement. I just don't believe in one artist starting a movement. That's what I learned in Atlanta. It never is one artist. It's a group of artists coming together and being collaborative and moving the needle together. And I think that
maybe it's a We Are the World type situation. Maybe you have to get together like 30 of these
maybe
people.
I should put them all together in a room.
Yeah, get them in a room. Do some.
You know what I'm hoping for?
Trump.
I want people to be socially conscious, but I don't even want the artist versus Trump thing. I just want people to start understanding the same people they're yelling at are the people they're claiming to help. You know, that's the big thing. Like we keep talking about fight, but who the hell are we fighting? Each other. And I'm just very frustrated by this. Like I got asked a question in Billboard a couple weeks ago, and they said, what was the biggest story in our industry last year? And my response was, I don't really care. We're not that important compared to what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And, you know, my hope is that, you know, artists who are actually willing to educate themselves speak up, and other ones, I don't want them to use their platform. If you're in your own world and you're not actually socially conscious, you can do more harm than good. And I'd rather you just stay quiet. But I think what's next for music is I think we're going to see a lot of new things be discovered because the gatekeepers are getting taken away even more, and more things are being discovered on streaming with this next generation.
How worried should I be about the Logan Paul, Jake Paul type of music? Because unfortunately, my kids...
I wouldn't be worried.
Somebody asked me if...
I wouldn't be worried because that is... You know, abuse of your platform is it can only last so long. And unfortunately, he's a young guy, and him and his brother are learning that the hard way. And I don't wish bad on anybody. I hope they figure it out. But at the end of the day, you can't be so disrespectful and keep thinking it's funny.
My fear is that my kids... Somebody asked me, will my kids remember Logan and Jake Paul like kids in the late 80s remember the Beastie Boys, where they know all the songs, and like 15 years from now they're at a party and somebody starts singing a Logan Paul song and they know all the words, and I'm like, God, I not only do I not hope that happens, but I'm willing to do whatever brainwashing it takes to eliminate those people from their brains. But unfortunately, like that is where people are getting a lot of music, and it has good outcomes. Like Justin Bieber, that's how people found him, YouTube. Mm-hmm. And then some not so great stuff.
Listen, I'm constantly worried about my 2 sons being dicks because they're growing up in a very different lifestyle than I did, and especially the generation before me. Yeah. And the best someone told me, they're like, as long as you're concerned about it, probably it's going to work itself out.
How old are your sons?
My sons are 3 and 1.
Oh, so you have a long way to go before you start having the philosophical parent questions about language and songs.
Yeah. My wife's the founder of Fuck Cancer, so I think that's going to work itself out.
My attitude is my kids can hear the words, but I don't want them singing along. Like they know how to self-edit when whatever bad word comes up. Yeah. No, that was the way I kind of grew up. Yeah. I don't want to hear them in my backseat like dropping F-bombs.
Well, you know what you could tell them? As soon as they start, you can say, who sings this song? And then they'll tell you, and then you can respond with, let's keep it that way. That's usually
That's a good one.
That's the what I tell people when I don't like them singing songs. I go, "Who sings this?" They say it, and I go, "Cool, let's keep it that way."
Do you know my connection with Kanye and my daughter? My daughter plays club soccer and has played for like 5 years. But when we drove to tournaments, because in California you're just driving around everywhere, she would have a playlist to get like fired up for whatever the game was or whatever. And from like age 8, it was just pretty much all Kanye. And, you know, we're pulling up in these parking lots and it'll be like halfway through Runaway. And we pull up and this, you know, there's some minivan next to us and people are kind of looking at our car. I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like turning it down. But I think it's crazy.
Meanwhile, if you kept it up, they'd be like, yeah.
I think it's crazy that somebody can make music like that can touch everybody. You know, like I don't think I'm in the Kanye wheelhouse really. I'm a guy in my mid 40s and I have a daughter who's now 12, but I think history is going to remember him.
Yeah, I personally, and I'm very biased because I'm close with him. I think he's a living icon. Like I think he's one of those people that after death will be remembered for a long time, and he's living right now.
Do you agree with what I said about him? That I think Kanye is a genius, but the problem is he knows that.
I see it very differently.
Okay.
I don't see it as a problem that he knows that because I get to have the real conversations with him in a way other people might never get to have.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is so many of us, like, it's like looking at a painting. And if you're too close to the painting, you might see a couple brush strokes and be like, I don't get it. And I think with Kanye, when it's all said and done, we're going to be able to step back and realize everything he does is art.
Yeah.
And he's fighting for that. So
how many years away are we from that?
I think some of us see it now, and that's why we fight so vehemently as fans of his.
I see it now. I just don't fight. Maybe I should fight more.
Well, I think you're on a podcast talking about him a lot, so you're fighting. So I think history will prove exactly who he is.
When was the last honest conversation you had with somebody publicly? Like, would he ever come on this podcast?
You'd have to ask him.
But does he do stuff like that? Does he care? Does he care?
Yeah, I think
to even have a conversation.
When he wants to have a conversation, yeah. But I think, you know, we have honest conversations all the time. I just think he lives by his convictions and he makes his own decisions, and he might do this, he might not do this. Like, it's just kind of up to him.
Give me 2 predictions of people who are on the horizon that you are not involved with in any way, that you're just kind of jealous of.
Why would I do that? Let me only tell you who I'm involved with. Greta Van Fleet is a new band that I'm not involved with that I think is on the rise. The Spencer Lee Band.
Oh, you mentioned those.
Yeah. I'm involved, and I would said it anyway because you have to listen to just 2 of the songs that are out, and you'll be like, "Holy shit!" I'll play them for you before I leave. And I mean, there's a lot of great new artists. We'll see what happens over the next year.
That question. Best NBA rapper.
Best NBA rapper.
Would you sign an NBA rapper?
Well, no, because they can't tour. They're playing in the NBA all the time.
Well, they could tour during the summer.
Yeah, maybe.
Do a little 2-month tour.
Yeah, maybe a 2-month tour.
Or in Damian Lillard's case, it could be like a 6-month tour.
Damian Lillard's good.
They usually don't make the playoffs.
Damian Lillard's good. Yeah, he's good. Damian Lillard is
he the best one right now?
I don't know. You know what? I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't really dived into the NBA rap scene.
That's bullshit.
No, I know. I need to.
You said you love basketball.
I love basketball.
Those are your 2 worlds colliding.
I understand, and I need to dive into the NBA rap scene. I've been too busy actually watching them play basketball. Can I tell you one of my favorite teams to watch in the NBA though?
Please.
The Miami Heat.
They're weird. It's a weird team.
You know why?
A lot of weird players.
All heart.
Pick up team. Everybody tries hard.
Everybody plays hard, and they're capable of beating anybody on any given night.
It's one of many teams that could beat the Celtics in round 1.
They're a team that plays hard every single night. They play together. They seem to like each other. They shouldn't be good, and I fell in love with them last year when they were chasing to try and get into the playoffs, and they got that one game away. They won, and then the other team won, so they didn't get in.
Yeah.
And
I think they would have beaten the Celtics.
And they're just one of those teams that they're fun to watch because they remind me of a less talented Pistons with like Chauncey and Rip. Because Chauncey,
like a poor man's 04 Pistons.
Yeah, it was an amazing championship Pistons team.
Yeah,
but they were good because they played incredibly well together against a bunch of guys who were better and more talented than them. But they played as a team. Like that was a great team basketball to watch. And the Heat are even less talented.
Yeah,
and I'm happy if that D Wade gets to retire there. I think that's a nice thing.
I think he retired 3 years ago. He's just still getting paid. Disappointing career, D Wade. I have a lot of Tommy over there has some tormented D Wade thoughts. He went to the Bulls for $24 million a year.
He did what he had to do.
He did what he had to do. So what's next for you?
You know, I taken Chris Paul's advice. I think I'm going to try out next year for the league.
Celebrity league?
No, the real league.
The real league.
I'm going to try and pull a Master P.
Could you beat Kyle Korver?
In a 3-point contest?
Yeah.
Any given day. You never know with shooters, right?
Why don't you just show up at these gyms and bet these guys on shooting contests?
What do you think?
All they want to do is bet white guys on shooting contests.
What do you think Jermaine Dupri used to do with me back in the day to make money? He used to literally have rappers come to work in the studio.
So you're like, white men can't jump.
And he would bring me in like Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
And I would wear like cargo shorts and just take money I made more playing basketball at the SOSODEF gym than I probably did in my salary.
What's your game like?
I'm just a shooter.
Well, but give me a comparison, NBA comparison.
My favorite player growing up was Mark Price.
Ah, one of my favorites.
Mark Price was my guy.
He killed the Celtics in 1992.
We
would have been up 3-1 in the series. Mark Price was killed
he us. He had a lightning quick release.
He was Nash before Nash. He hurt his knee.
Yeah. And so I'm a shooter. I'm a guy like really like in AAU basketball. Like I was the guy. I go in as a 3-point specialist, and that was always my game. If I make a layup, it's a miracle. Because I'm even attempting a layup.
It's amazing the Cavs didn't sign you. They love aging 3-point specialists.
Yeah,
They've
it's like
gotten a whole bunch.
I had a lot of watching the Mark Prices, the Steve Kerrs, like little white guys who shot threes. That made me feel real good about myself.
Does Kanye have a game or no?
Kanye's an athlete, so he loves basketball. He loves playing.
What is his pickup
Justin
style?
Plays. You know who's the best I've ever played against in the entertainment business?
Who?
Ali from the Saint Lunatics. Ali, Nelly's guy, Ali from the St. Lunatics is like 6'5", 6'4", 6'5". He was all city St. Louis.
Wow.
And he can play. He can really play. And I used to play, Lou Williams used to, and he was in high school, he was friends with Bow Wow, and he used to come over to the SOSODEF gym and play with us all the time. So I've known him since he was 17.
Who else? Give me more.
Jay Will and I grew up together, like playing against each other in team camps.
Like musician
Oh,
people.
Musicians who can play. I play with Adam Levine a bunch. We have games at Adam's house. Adam's a pure lefty.
Does he have one of those like pure?
He's a lefty. He loves going like hard to the hole with the left hand. That's
such an advantage for pickup.
Yeah,
because people get tired. They just forget you're lefty.
I'm trying to think who else is good.
Titty Boy.
Common can play.
Oh yeah, Common can play.
I love that you called him Titty Boy and not 2 Chainz. That's how I know him. I know him from the Ludacris, days. It's Titty Boy.
DTP.
Yeah. Yep, DTP. He could play. But I'm telling you, the best was Ali from the St. Lunatics. Ali from the St. Lunatics could shoot. He could play. He was really, really, really good.
Is there any Jay-Z basketball?
I've never played with Jay. So
he probably doesn't, right?
I mean, I have no idea.
Unless he's great, there's nothing for him to win with that.
I guess so. I've literally never played with him before.
Do you think Tidal works?
I got invited to the White House to play with Obama. Got so excited, showed up, and he wasn't in the game.
Oh!
I was like, what is it? Like, literally, I was hyped for like the whole day. I was in D.C. Like, I went over there, and he wasn't there. This was kind of a letdown.
Do you think Tidal and that whole philosophy and that whole practice of this is the only place to hear our music is a good idea?
No, I think. Look, I don't think exclusivity works in music.
I don't think it does either.
I think that that's why Spotify has become the biggest, because they don't care about exclusivity. They just care about giving the best platform. Yeah. And Apple kind of did the same thing. And I think music can be ripped too easily. So you just gotta give the best place for self-discovery. and give that same feeling of when you went into a vinyl store or 8-track or whatever, it was, or I found a mixtape, we felt this feeling of self-discovery that when that artist blew up, we felt like we owned them and we were there forever.
Yeah.
And I think whichever platforms provide that wins. It's not about having the biggest artist with the exclusive album. It's about where am I going to find what I fall in love with and make my own.
The NBA, even though they have nothing in common in this respect, they actually do, because the NBA was always like, here's our stuff. Use it the way you want. Oh, you want to cut the Giannis's best dunks of the year? We're not going to take it down. They kind of try to celebrate the game, and they let the users celebrate the game with them, and it worked. And you think like basketball Twitter every night is like an event in itself, and anytime something happens, you can find it on Twitter in 5 seconds.
Yep.
Whereas football, it's like coming down, take that down, take this down. Oh, we don't like this. And I think the inclusiveness of what basketball is doing and what seems to be working in music seems to be some parallels.
I think there's a lot of parallels. I think at the end of the day, the user is the one who's providing all the revenue anyway. So if you try to cut them off from being a creator, you lose.
Well, how many views is Despacito up to?
A lot, and we just crossed 1 billion streams on Spotify. So,
1 billion streams, and it's like how many on YouTube? Like
I haven't even looked. It's massive.
It's over 1 billion. I think.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, it's.
Do you remember when you first heard that song?
Yeah, they sent it to me to remix it with other artists, not Justin. And I cut a deal for my company to own the remix, and I would handle putting together a remix. And then Justin was in South America, and he heard the song, and he's like, "Man, girls are going crazy for this." I said, "Well, I have the remix rights. If you want to do it, you have to do it this week." And we talked about it. I sent Pooh Bear, a writer that we manage, in to write the English part. Justin said, "I'm going to do it in Spanish." And I said, "Great, that's what I think so too." We talked about it. I said, "It'd be good for the Latin market." He sends it back to me. It sounds great. I'm really excited. I send it in. The radio guys call. The label calls. Luis Fonsi himself reaches out. We want Justin to do it in English. We were hoping this would be an English version that we can get played on English radio. And I said, "We're not doing that." And
you said, "Don't you remember what happened with Nina and 99 Luft Balloons?"
Well, first, you know what I did say? What I said is I did Gangnam Style with Psy, and I said if I can get a song in Korean all over the radio, I can get a song in Spanish.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
And then I also I said it's really important we keep this in Spanish. And they said, well, and I said, look, I'm putting it on me. We're going to work it. My guy Mike Chester in my office, like, we're going to work it with you, and we're going to break this with you. And if I'm wrong, we'll do it in English, but I'm not wrong. We're doing it in Spanish. And I said, we have a responsibility to do this in Spanish because I felt like over the last year, there's so many American citizens who speak that language in their home, and they felt less than. And I wanted to get a number one on the radio that they could hear their native tongue and feel appreciated. And I was hoping to get it to number one for a week. I didn't expect it to go 16 weeks, but it was pretty awesome.
You said 3 days from now, I'm going to call you back with 4 12-year-old girls who have never heard this song before, and I want you to hear their reactions. And they're going to lose their fucking minds.
Once it went, there was no stopping it. It was just making people understand. I literally had to curse on one phone call and say, it's not changing to fucking English. Stop asking me.
I always find out with pop music belatedly from my kids in the car when they tell me to put something on. And that one I knew right away. I heard like a minute and a half of it. I was like, oh my God, this song's a monster. It's fun. How do you make money from a song like that though, other than that? Like,
I mean, you get paid for every stream.
Yeah, but explain that to me. How do you chase it down?
Well, we have companies that do that for you.
They're chasing down Spotify, Apple.
The reason you sign with a major and a major publisher is their responsibility is to chase down the money and pay you.
How confident are you that you're getting all the money?
I audit. So yeah, that's how I'm confident. I audit and make sure that I get all the money.
So is it safe to say that song made a ridiculous amount of money?
The song did very well.
Did very well?
Yeah, it did very well.
Like very well? Like, can you buy the New Orleans Pelicans?
I don't know.
Throw your hat in the ring right now. Let's make some news.
You know what? I'm good on owning an NBA team if I live in Los Angeles because I don't want to fly all the way to New Orleans.
Okay, so the Lakers when that finally
and
falls
I don't
apart.
think Despacito made me that much money.
At some point, maybe.
You know what?
Maybe minority owner.
I got offered to do that a couple years ago, and I almost did it.
The Hawks?
The Hawks. They wanted me to do it. A guy, Todd Foreman.
Yeah.
And he convinced me to do it, and I was thinking about doing it. And my best friend is the CEO of the Miami Heat, and he convinced me not to do it. And I would have doubled my money in the sale. So he was wrong.
You're basically you're basically buying season tickets and hoping it doubles. Which in that case,
I bought floor seats for the Clippers. My wife got them for me as my birthday present.
Yeah,
it's my best. It's my happy place. And I got them because CP3 was on the team and we were very close friends. And then he called to tell me he was leaving, going to the Rockets.
He said, "I can't stay in Blake Griffin anymore. I have to go."
That is not what he said. You know
what? I cannot stand this guy.
Listen,
he's driving me crazy.
I promise you, anyone who thinks that is giving way too much credit to everybody else. I think he made a decision to go play with.
Oh, that's kind of insulting in its own right.
No, I don't think it's. I just think they're trying to make drama out of something that wasn't drama. He wanted to go play with Harden and Trevor, and he saw an opportunity, and he feels like it's his old AU team, like the way the energy is.
Yeah,
and he's having a blast. But for me, it sucked because it was fun seeing my friend out there every single game when I went.
I have Austin Rivers still.
We have Milos.
Milos is great.
Milos is my favorite.
Milos, there's a lot of rumors.
And I love Patrick Beverley because my wife and I just built a school in the Watts with the help of Patrick Beverley.
Oh, wow.
We built a park. There was a public school in the Watts that needed a playground and everything else. And my wife, for her birthday, wanted to sponsor it. And Patrick Beverley saw it on my Instagram and went to the Clippers and said we should team up with them. And we put up 50% and they put up 50%. We rebuilt this entire school park.
Wow.
So I love him now. But Milos is my favorite because I watched the preseason game with the Clippers when they were in Hawaii. And it's Milos' first game ever as an NBA professional. And they're like, after all the years becoming a legend in Europe, how did it feel? And you played so well and you had so many assists and a couple. And it was a friendly exhibition. We talk about killer instinct. And Milos literally looks at them and he's like, I did not enjoy this game. We lost. And they were like, yeah, but it's a friendly exhibition. He goes, I played to win. And just Milos. Dead serious. Milos looks like a guy who smokes a pack of cigarettes right before the game.
I was going to say, there's a lot of rumors about him with cigarettes.
Yeah, and just walks out there and goes, I don't give two shits. He's a zero fucks kind of guy, but he wants to win. And I just love Milos. I think he's great.
He might be a halftime smoke break
And
guy.
I love Lou because I've known Lou since he was 17. And he should have been an all-star this year.
I don't understand why he settled with the contract he did. I would not have advised him on that one. I think he should have bet on himself this summer. But I was happy for the Clippers that they locked him down for 3 years. Mm-hmm. Some people just like to get locked down.
I guess.
Scooter Braun. Good times. Last thing I wanted to ask you about arena security. Obviously, you've had some experience with this. How do we get safer? I've heard different solutions, ideas for this. Your experiences with this. What do you think?
So, for anyone listening who doesn't know, the reason you're asking me is because I'm Ariana Grande's manager, and her show in Manchester was the terrorist attack. The thing I learned from that show is that we can put in as many measures as we want, but if someone is living that kind of evil, and they are willing to kill themselves, they're going to kill people. That person waited outside of the arena for the show to end in a pickup area and waited till they were surrounded by as many children as possible. Looked those children in the eyes who had smiles on their faces and just enjoyed an Ariana Grande show. I hate to say this, but your daughter's 12. 12-year-olds. There was an 11-year-old girl who died that day. And that person looked them in the eye and said, there's enough of them around me now. I'm going to do this. So what I think we can do is, keep, sharing information as much as possible, because that's how our intelligence agencies find stuff out and avoid crisis. But that kind of prevention is the only real prevention. You can put as many measures as you want, but that kind of evil you can't stop. And the best thing we can do to stop it is to make it so that it doesn't live up to their agenda. And that's actually why we did the One Love Manchester concert 2 weeks later in Manchester.
Yeah.
Because I just felt very strongly, and I put a lot of pressure on Ariana, and it was unfair of me to do it. But she's tough as nails, and she stepped up, and she and the city of Manchester are my heroes now. I felt like if their goal is to scare us from our way of life, the best thing we can do for security is not change our way of life when these tragedies happen, and answer them with defiance and courage and say, basically, fuck you. We're going to keep living our lives as a responsibility to those that were lost. Because you can put all kinds of venue security in place, but they'll wait in the parking lot across the street. Or, they'll wait at a kid's baseball game and not a professional baseball game. Or they'll do all kinds of stuff because these people really believe in this evil agenda.
Yeah.
But if you take away, if they say, look, the last time we did that, it backlashed on us. They got stronger, and 2 weeks later, they're in a concert, 60,000 strong, saying we're not changing a damn thing. They're going to think twice before they blow themselves up at a concert. So I think, we have to just be resolute and strong and defiant, and that's the best way to deter violence.
My friend Nathan Hubbard thinks that one of the big problems here is that tickets are just kind of these things that just kind of happen, and you don't know, you can't trace them, you don't know where they end up and all that stuff. And
the thing about the terrorist at our show didn't have a ticket.
Right, he was just outside.
He waited.
Yeah.
He saw the security checkpoints, he saw everything. He goes, I'm going to wait 20 feet outside of the security checkpoint because they're going to have to leave and go to the train station.
But the bigger fear would be that this happened inside a stadium with even more people, right?
I mean, he killed a lot of people. He killed, if the size of that bomb, whether it was in the stadium or out, he killed as many people as he possibly could.
Yeah.
The funny part is probably the safest place was in the arena.
Interesting.
But like I said,
do you see a future with tickets though, where we're going to be able to
hope so.
Every, it'd almost be like buying an airline ticket where we know who has the airline ticket, that they're actually using it. You can't transfer it. I think that's probably where this is going 5-6 years from now.
I'm hoping so. I think a lot of the reason why we haven't seen that is because selling out shows is based on hype.
Yeah.
A lot of times. So artists won't mind scalpers scooping up a bunch of tickets because they want to say I sold out in a couple minutes.
Well, knowing they tip them off and
the scalpers go crazy and everything else, and it creates a hype for the show. I mean, people don't know this about Michael Jackson, but his original managers used to pay women to be at the airport screaming for him. And after paying them like 5 or 6 times, women just started showing up screaming for him because that's what people and fans thought they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And with hype, when you hear, oh, that show sold out in minutes, you want to be in that show, whether you know what that show is or not. And I think that's why we haven't seen, because technology could easily stop scalping.
Yeah.
But I don't think we want that yet.
Nathan's written about that for The Ringer. It's really not that hard to completely
not that hard
change
at all,
it. But the scalpers don't want it, and some of the ticket agencies don't want it.
And the people throwing the shows. Yeah. They like saying I sold out in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Scooter Braun. This
was
was
a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me know
when
you buy an NBA team.
How's your jump shot?
I had a nice resurgence a couple years ago as a stretch 3.
Oh, so you're like a slasher or like a stretch?
No, I was done. I was like, you turn 40 and you lose like one thing every year.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'1.5".
I've never heard 6'1.5" described as a stretch 3.
Well, that's wait till you get to 43.
Yeah, but I'm saying like that's like I would consider that. I think your stretch 3 is different than mine. I would think of you as a shooting 2 who likes to go to the corner on the fast break.
Yeah, but I didn't used to play like that. That was the bummer.
Yeah, but then 40 comes.
Yeah,
you don't get hurt.
But no, and when I
got into a screaming match in my pickup game on Saturday, not because of wanting to get hurt.
Right.
I got into a screaming match because we got this kid who always comes, who he's probably going to hear this and be like, yeah, that's me. And we have a great game. Like everyone can play. There's all different levels, but everybody's like a good guy. It's not even winners stay on. If winners stay on, unless there's too many guys, and then winners shoot to stay on. Like it's a good energy, and everyone's there to play and not get hurt, not get into a fight. And this one guy loves to throw elbows, and he loves to call everything. But if you make a call, he likes to talk shit, even if he's not covering you.
That's the number one sin.
Yeah, and it,
supposedly Carmelo was like that for a few years in pickup.
Yeah, well, this guy was annoying.
Fouls on everybody.
And usually it takes like 6 games before someone says anything. I show up at the gym, and I'm like the 12th guy. So like they're starting the first game, I got next. And me and my buddy are talking. My buddy Graham Bunn, who is the country morning show host here in LA, who used to be a serious ball player and played overseas.
Yeah.
And we're talking about this guy. And he's like, yeah, I remember playing with him a couple weeks ago. It's frustrating. We go in the game. We're 3 points into the first game. This is 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday. And I shoot a 3 and a guy snake bites me. I call it. The guy's like, my bad. He knows he fouled me. It was like an aggressive snake bite. And this guy starts saying, oh, it's a bitch call, blah, blah. I don't even let him get another sentence out. I brought my 2 boys to the gym that morning. They're in the corner. I think like my brother or someone's watching them. I literally saw red. I forget my sons are behind me. And I start screaming at this guy at the top of my lungs. You know what? I'm tired of your fucking mouth every fucking time I come here. Well, like cursing like a sailor. Like tell him I was like, it's not going down. Like, I'm not waiting 6 games here and your bullshit. It ends right now. We got a fucking problem. Like I'm ready to fight, which my lawyer would not be happy about.
Yeah.
And to his credit, he just stopped talking. And the rest of the game, he stopped talking. I went up to him later. I'm like, let's hug it out. And I made him hug me and then everything else. But I lost my goddamn mind because I'm at an age now at 36 where I'm not fighting on a basketball court to be competitive. I'm fighting to keep you in a happy place.
Yeah.
That's the difference when you get old. When you're younger and you're 21 playing pickup, you're fighting because you want that bravado and you want to kill somebody and you want to go out there. When you're 36 and in your 40s, all you want to do is have a nice game without a twisted ankle. And if anyone threatens that, you are willing to kill them.
Jacoby and I were going for 2 years to USC and playing with the USC kids. And I was like 41, 42. And it was, I just thought it was dead for me. And it's still the most fun on the planet. The 3-hour run is still my number one thing. I've never really fully been able to replace it. It's something like has been part of my life off and on since I was, 14. And there's nothing like it. Like golf is just not as good. Tennis is not as good. There's nothing like trying to stay in the court and making friends with all these people you'd never be friends with anyway. And the bonding that goes in and just like pushing for one more game. And this is the game I'm going to get hurt. I shouldn't play.
When that basket turns into an ocean.
Yeah.
When you get that rhythm,
best.
when you get 3 or 4 going down in a row and you get a real good rhythm and you they expect you to shoot and you throw a dime and you feel real good about it. And, you finish. There's nothing like pickup basketball.
I was going to take HGH to keep going. And I did all these research. I really was because my body was starting to break down. And I could feel it. And I was like a half step slow from where I was before. But just the reactions were, and I was just like, the only way I keep going is PEDs. And I did all the research. And I'm like, this would be a funny story. Like, I'll take HGH to like help my, but then I did all the research and HGH is kind of scary. Like if you have any cancer in your body, it can bring it out potentially. And there are all these side effects. I was like, I'm out. This is crazy.
When was the last time you played pickup?
The 2014 finals in Miami, because the year before we had arranged all these NBA games.
And how much work do you have to do this weekend?
Huh?
How much work do you have to do?
No,
this
I
weekend?
can't. I'd have to rebuild my legs. It would take me 3 months to come back.
What if I told you this is a game where you could?
I'd need 3 months. I don't want to get hurt.
You're not going to get hurt. I did your podcast. You have to come to my Saturday morning game this week.
All right, give me 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah, give me 3 weeks and I'll come.
Okay, 3 weeks. You and me, Saturday morning.
Okay.
There we go.
That's pretty early. All right. Scooter Braun, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much to Scooter. Thanks to ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. My listeners can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/BS. And if you haven't tried it for free yet, I'm beginning to take it personally. I've been telling you all year, 2018. Try it out. Go check it out. ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Thanks to Gillette. Get Gillette Performance delivered to your door. No more getting mad at yourself because you just got back from the grocery store and you realized you forgot to buy blades. Nope. Just get it online. Subscribe today. Pick your favorite razor. Get every 4th order free. Visit Gillette online at GilletteOnDemand.com. The BS podcast comes back one more time at the end of the week. I will see you then.